Well, there are a lot of people involved in getting your food from the farm or in some cases from the ocean to your table, and businesses all along the supply chain will be facing a labor shortage because of COVID-19. There'll be a lot of students out there looking for work as well because of the pandemic, work that's going to be not that easy to find this summer. And that's where a plan from a group of Conservative MPs comes in. They're proposing a program to match young people looking for work with jobs in the agriculture and food sector. Well, joining us now is Raquel Dancho, a member of Parliament for Killarney St. Paul in Manitoba, and the Shadow Minister for Diversity, Inclusion and Youth. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Stephen.
How is this program going to work exactly?
So the program that the Conservatives are proposing would be designed much like the current federal Canada Summer Jobs Program, where the federal government subsidizes at a minimum wage jobs for young people, and this would be specific to the agriculture and agri-food sector. So farmers would have the opportunity to top up that wage and also certainly provide a safe work environment for young people. And as soon as if we get this program running off the ground, then farmers could apply right away for those labor shortages that they're experiencing.
And what have you been hearing from people in the agriculture sector about the need for workers right now?
Well, it's quite dire, Stephen. What I'm understanding is, every year we bring in 60,000 temporary foreign workers to work in agriculture, and that's still 15,000 workers short than what we need annually. And now, because of the border closures from the pandemic, we're seeing an increase in the need because we're just not able to get those workers. So it is critical that we fill these labor shortages, or else, we fear that people are going to start seeing more empty shelves, higher prices. It's critical that we get these labor shortages filled.
And why is it that the sector relies so heavily on temporary foreign workers?
Well, I think, again, this is it's a hard day's work out on the fields in this hot summer heat. And, perhaps traditionally Canadians have not been too drawn to that kind of work. But quite frankly, I've sensed a shift in the tone from individuals, actually an eagerness of young people to really contribute to the COVID pandemic relief effort in a meaningful way. I think the millennials and the Generation Z, more than any other generation, are looking for meaning in their work. And I think even urbanites are looking to contribute in a way that may be outside the box. We recently saw an interview with your fellow CBC host, Rosemary Barton, with the urbanite Montreal young man, and he said the same. He was very eager to contribute in a meaningful way and was completely open to going and putting in a hard day's work on a farm.
And tell me about selling this idea to students who might have a very different idea of a summer job in their heads right now.
Yeah, I was a student not too long ago, and so I worked throughout university, but particularly those summer months are critical. It's never good to have a gap in your resume. So to be able to expand your reach, develop your skills, challenge yourself, better your work ethic, and have those new experiences, students know how critical that is to their long-term employment opportunities. But, beyond that, I'm concerned we're hearing more and more about the mental health impacts of isolation and unemployment, and this is very, very serious. So I frankly can't think of anything worse than incentivizing students to stay at home in their parents' basements or their own tiny apartments in the best months of the year, in the best weather of the year, away from their friends, and not doing anything purposeful that has meaning. So I think just even for the mental health aspect alone and the resume booster, that students may be quite eager, particularly their parents, to see them flourish and do something new and challenging.
How optimistic are you that you're going to get support for this from the Trudeau government?
Well, we recently heard Federal Employment Minister Carla Qualtrough say and recognize that they are looking at agriculture and the agri-food services. We know they seem to be recognizing that there is an incredible shortage and that, your average consumer is very anxious about empty shelves, higher prices, and the supply food chain for probably the first time in generations. So this is a crisis and a critical time. We need to be able to think outside the box and mobilize our most energetic, healthy demographic, our young people, and get them to work. But, Stephen, I would say that I am a bit concerned about the recent $9 billion announcement that, frankly, just incentivizes students to stay at home all summer. Again, I think that's detrimental to their personal development and their mental health. And I would like to see the government be innovative and, again, think outside the box. And why not mobilize our young people in a meaningful way that allows them to contribute and develop their skills?
Do you think that $9 billion is going to allow students to stay at home all summer? I mean, these are students who have very few alternatives. A lot of them would be out doing various jobs that simply aren't available. There's no way for them to raise money for next year's tuition.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's incredibly alarming. As somebody who depended on that full-time summer employment, I can completely relate to the stress and anxiety of young people. They don't want to sit at home. This is the best time of their lives. They'll never be healthier or more able-bodied. And so I'm quite optimistic, actually, that young people would be interested in doing this. And I'm sure you've heard, and I'm sure it's popular in Vancouver, we're actually seeing this interesting trend, this exodus of urbanites to go, grow their own organic produce on a small farm. It's quite incredible. So it might be an opportunity for young people to actually learn about the food supply chain and grow an appreciation for it.
Sure, but there's a reason we rely on temporary foreign workers to do this work is because it's low-paid, back-breaking, very, very difficult work. And we wouldn't rely on foreign workers if Canadians wanted to do those jobs.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. But as the Prime Minister has said, this is a wartime effort. This is an unprecedented crisis in Canadian and world history. We need to think outside the box. We need to be able to do things that we may not have considered before. And quite frankly, I sense a real eagerness from young people. Your colleague, Rosemary Barton in Ottawa, recently interviewed an urbanite from Montreal, a young man, and he said the same. He's like, I'm looking to meaningfully contribute, and this would be a new challenge, so this would be interesting to him. So I was very encouraged to hear that, and I've certainly heard that from young people in my riding and, my own friends as well. So I'm optimistic that young people are prepared to rise to the challenge and meet the needs of Canadians in this unprecedented crisis.
Ms. Dancho, appreciate your time very much this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen.
You take care. Bye-bye now.
You too. Bye-bye.